I have 5 siblings, an older brother, 30, 2 older sisters, 27 and 22, a younger sister, 20, and a younger brother, 18. My second older sister, I'll call her BB, is a year apart from me and has always been the golden child. Not to say that the rest of us were scapegoats. BB did everything. She kept straight A's through school, was always MVP or champion on her sports and academic teams. Our parents kept a bunch of shelves for her trophies and medals, and it was always filled. They kept having to add more space. Since the rest of my siblings and I also did athletics and such, we also got shelves for our trophies, but they were never as filled and never as successful as BB's. She was competitive and always a winner. The only sport we ever were equals in was soccer, because we played on the same team, but she always got MVP. There was a little resentment, yeah, but I knew it had to be benched. BB didn't have an ego or anything. She was just good at what she did, and it wasn't her fault that our parents recognized it. We get along really well. We both go to school near our parents' place, but they've been in the process of moving houses and doing remodels, so neither of us have been able to visit. I know that BB continues to do sports and actually has most of her college paid for by sports scholarships. Our parents' remodels were finished, and we both came down to celebrate. They gave us the tour, and in the living room, they have a huge shelf of trophies. I figured they had consolidated all the trophies, but later on, I went down while everyone was on the deck and read the nameplates. They're all BB's. I could understand if my parents had maybe gotten rid of my older sisters. Most of hers were participation. But my brother was really successful with lacrosse. I did good at soccer and swimming. My younger sister has numerous academic accolades. My younger brother is a really talented weightlifter and wrestler. The fact they got rid of all of our trophies for BB's is insulting. I'm assuming ours are either in storage or the garbage, because they're not up anywhere else in the house. Our parents have never treated us any differently. They love and appreciate us equally. But I guess not. I just feel insulted. I was always vocal about how much I love soccer and how important it was to me. And when I moved into college, I kept with it. Sure, I was never the best, but I was good, and I got trophies and medals. They just got rid of them all for BB. I don't know how to feel. Am I just being petty? What could I even say to my parents? Right now, all I want to say is, screw you guys. But I feel like that's unreasonable for a 21-year-old. Is there anything I can say to them? Seriously, is this just me being petty? Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense. The least threatening way to approach it would be to just ask them what they've done with all the medals and trophies. Like, hey, where's the rest? Depending on the answer, you'd know what to do. You could also ask, so why have you chosen to display only BB's trophies, when we're in fact a group of siblings that, feel a little left out? Aren't you proud of ours? But then be ready for a little discussion. What do your siblings feel about it? Have you talked with them, including BB? I think this is a really weird thing of them to do nonetheless. Update. So, I spoke to BB that night. I wrote my post. I pointed out that it was her trophies on the shelf, and it wasn't my favorite interaction. I think being away from her for so long definitely changed my perception of her, and I didn't really notice that she had changed, especially her ego. I showed her each trophy and nameplate, and she went, "Well, of course they're my trophies. When was the last time you got better than bronze?" I asked her if it didn't upset her that the rest of ours were basically hidden, even though we've had a lot of dedication to our activities. And she said, "No, dedication doesn't make you a winner." BB told me I was wasting her time, told me to grow up and get over myself. Then she went to go hang around with our parents, and I think I finally got it. She was the golden child, and we were the scapegoats. The entire time I'd been there, they'd just been hanging out with BB, and I was there too. I felt so upset, and admittedly, I self-imploded. Having my own sister that I looked up to and admired treat me like that was just a slap in the face. Our older siblings were so far in age from us that we really got close and relied on each other. Later, I got my parents separated from BB and asked. They pretty much echoed her, telling me I hadn't earned my spot on the shelf, and that my trophies had gone in the garbage because they didn't impress anybody the way that BB's did, and said that I was an adult and I should basically just suck it up. I've never been more hurt by anything. I don't think I fully realized the scope of it when I was younger, but it clicks now. My game day was on the same day as BB's, and they went to hers. They brought snacks to BB's competition, but not mine. Everything for BB was hosted at our house, but nothing for the rest of us. I pushed so much of it aside and called all of my suspicions jealousy because my relationship with my sister was more important. But it didn't matter half as much to her. Her ego has gotten stroked for years and years, and they finally let it all come out and rear its ugly head. I was just flat out offended, especially that they threw everything out, as though we didn't matter as much as BB. They'd thrown everything out. I was just so mad that I ended up leaving, and my parents yelled at me for causing drama. I told my siblings about what had happened, because I thought they had a right to know that their trophies got removed. And I did try to sound unbiased. It didn't really work, because my whole family is in a dramatic sinkhole. My younger brother called our parents sobbing. My older sister has been playing passive-aggressive and just flat-out aggressive phone tag with BB. And my little sister was so upset, she called me bawling. I've been trying to do damage control, but everyone else is just mad for what's happening. We all got a text from BB that basically read like, "I'm sorry I'm better than you, but I deserve our parents' love more than you," which naturally got everybody riled up again and just caused more problems. This has been basically the worst week of my life, and I hate it. So, yeah, there's my update. My family won't speak to one another, and we're all in a big dramatic mess. Background info. Trying to keep it as short as possible. I'm sorry. I love my husband. We have a pretty strong relationship. I used to be really close to his mom and dad until the last 2 years or so. His sister is not only his best friend, but also mine. My distaste for his mother started when I found out that she had done some very disgusting, disturbing, and predatory things to sister-in-law throughout her lifetime. Sister-in-law put up a good front for the sake of my husband for a decade, but once a straw broke the camel's back, she decided my husband was old enough to know the truth, and she promptly went no contact with mother-in-law. My husband and father-in-law knew a lot of the stuff that happened, but not all. My husband was overall distrustful of mother-in-law, but maintained a strained relationship because she's sick and he's afraid she'll die and he'll have regrets. Father-in-law and mother-in-law have been separated for 20 years. She lives with another man in another state, but uses father-in-law for his insurance. Father-in-law had a stroke not long after sister-in-law went no contact, and though he recovered and is physically fine, he is a completely different person now and has made some very hurtful and abusive life choices regarding his children. He teamed up with his estranged wife to villainize sister-in-law. We all cut contact with him after, but my husband still maintained a relationship with his mom, despite everything. We had a couple of arguments about his mom and ultimately decided that he can do whatever he wants in that category, but that I will not have anything to do with his mother because of my principles. And frankly, I think sister-in-law needs some mother-ducking support right now. As a woman, a wife, sister, daughter, and human, I just cannot condone the things she's done, regardless of how sick mother-in-law may or may not be at any given time, which is usually when it's most convenient for her. Shifting gears. Husband and I are currently doing long distance because of his job. It's temporary, we're pretty used to it, and we make it work. For Valentine's Day, I wanted to meet up with him in a city near his current location that I've been pining after for some time now. He talked me out of it because of money, and we agreed it would be more cost-effective for him to just come to me, and we'd have a nice weekend in. No big deal. A week after our time together, I relocated to our new town. He told me his mom wanted to drive up to meet him the weekend of my road trip, and I asked to put it off for a week in case I needed some assistance or something. He agreed. All was fine. Now, the problem at hand. I had totally forgotten that they had plans when I called him this afternoon. I hurried off the phone because I don't want any part of any of it, and I wanted to just leave them with it. I never asked where they were meeting or what they were doing for the same reason. An hour or so later, I clicked on our conversations and then on his contact info to track down an old picture I sent him. When I clicked on the info button, His current location was live. We had location sharing on during my drive, so he could give my family updates, and we just never turned it off. He was in the city I wanted to go to for Valentine's Day, with the woman I despised the most in the world. He's not a stupid man. He knows how I would feel about this, and he never once bothered to mention it. I texted him and casually asked where they had decided to go for the weekend. He said something north of the state capital. Then I watched as his location went from live to unavailable. I asked what town. He said they were near insert other town nearby. Then he tried changing the subject to small talk. I shut it down. I told him I knew exactly where he was and that I was hurt and confused by why he was being so shady. He told me that he knew I'd be disappointed that I couldn't go, so he thought he'd sneak in and out and get me something to make up for it. I told him I couldn't deal with this at the moment, and I'd talk to him Sunday. I honestly just don't want his disgusting mother to know we're in a fight and fill his head with whatever smut she comes up with. I've asked myself all sorts of questions. Would I feel the same if he went with anyone else? No. Is that petty? Maybe. I don't know. I also don't think he'd feel the need to be so sneaky, or that he'd need to make anything up to me if he were there with anyone else. Do I feel like his heart is in the right place? Debatable. He knew he was doing something that would hurt me, and chose to lie and sneak. Regardless, if he didn't do this maliciously, he knew exactly how this would play out. If he didn't, then his empathy level is something to be concerned about. Am I crazy? Am I overreacting? How do I approach this? So, he took your mother-in-law on your romantic vacation that he couldn't afford to take you on. Then, he lied and stopped sharing locations with you. I'm sorry, buying you a gift from the place you wanted to go is an extra dagger, not an apology. You're not crazy. He just chose his mother over you in a big way. I'm sure he will try to talk his way out of this, but you really need to stick to your point. He spent your money, as a couple, his time, and his effort on her to do the vacation you wanted. You're supposed to accept some trinket as a memento of a trip you didn't take, and were actively excluded from. No, absolutely not. He has shown you through his actions over and over that he chooses her over you, his dad, and his sister. Call your sister-in-law and go on vacation with her. Get your mind off of him. By the way, ultimatums don't work unless you're willing to follow through with your part of them. I feel like this will be a forever-long issue. His mother is clearly a manipulative woman and gets her way with your husband. This is a husband problem just as much as an in-law issue. Why hasn't your husband done a no contact? He says because she's sick. She was diagnosed with CF when she was young, and she's always been on the verge of death. Yet, she manages to live a life of luxury on father-in-law's dime and the coattails of the man she lives with. Around me and my sister-in-law, my husband acts like he maintains this relationship out of obligation. When I push him on the facts of abuse, his rhetoric is that it was between her and his sister and has nothing to do with him. Several months ago, I pushed back on that, saying if he loved his sister at all, he'd go no contact with his mom. After that, he asked me to take a step back from stuff with his mom. He shut and locked the door of communication, and stuff regarding her has been strained between us ever since. Hey guys, my sister, 27 female, Laura, has always been the smart sister in our family. She's the oldest and got the most attention from our parents as well. As we've gotten older, she's literally excelled at everything she's ever done, and her accomplishments constantly overshadow mine, no matter how hard I try. Our mom has even, jokingly, called her her favorite for bringing our family so many accomplishments and pride, multiple times. Starting in college, Laura got into a top Ivy League university, while I eventually went to a good state college. No surprise, parents only talked about Laura's studies when discussing kids with other parents. After college, Laura landed a big finance job, which turned into her life's calling, and was promoted early after only 1.5 years. I switched majors but got into a good PA program, which I worked really hard for. No surprise again, Laura was the only one congratulated. Since then, Laura has just exploded with success in everyone's eyes. She is pulling astronomical salaries and bonuses and has won awards for her work. Her name is super well known in her industry now, and she gets headhunted from top firms literally every month. On top of that, she met a great guy she is now engaged to, who is also in the same line of work, super wealthy, and absolutely adores her. In contrast, I had to drop out of my program due to mental health issues and have been slowly working my way back into my dream career. I work a near minimum wage job in a field that has nothing to do with what I studied, due to the big gap in my working history. I hate waking up every day to scrape by in my subpar life. Well, the worst of all is that Laura is a huge complainer. She always has been. When she's trying to go for something, a big award, promotion, whatever, she complains and complains about how it's so hard, how she can't do it, blah blah. Eventually, she knocks it out of the park and everyone is awed by her. Rinse and repeat. Recently, though, I just can't do this anymore during the holidays. When we last saw each other during the summer, she complained about how her next promotion may not come with as big a pay bump as she anticipated. Everyone was captivated and was like, "Oh no, Laura, I'm sure they'd make an exception for you." That night, I was talking to my mom about my anxieties in life and how I feel so small when Laura still complains despite having so much. My mom reacted with such disgust, saying, "How could I be so jealous and uncaring, that Laura is under a lot of stress too?" I don't know. I feel increasingly resentful at family events, now more so than ever. I feel like the difference between me and Laura's life is incomprehensibly large, and I'll never gain a fraction of her success. I still love her and my family, but how do I navigate future events without my jealousy and resentfulness eating me alive? I wonder if your mental health problems would clear up if you spent less time around your family and their fawning of your sister. Aside from big family events, keep contact to a minimum and concentrate on yourself and achieving your own dreams. Their favoritism of your sister only brings you down and likely makes you doubt yourself.